Oh, goodness. All right, so this week's video on Miss Elle Presents is going to be a garden DIY. One of the things that happens here in Georgia is that we get a lot of rain all at once, and then we go 5 or 6 days with no rain at all, especially in the late summer from July through October. I mean, it can be 7, 8, 10 days without rain. So one of the things that I'm going to be setting in place now to help with my plants and my garden coping through those drier periods is going to be an olla or multiple ollas in my garden. What an olla is a clay or terracotta vase that is set down into the ground. You cover it up to the top with soil, and then you put water in it. And because the pot is porous, it slowly leaks the water out to the plants, allowing the plants to develop their root systems over to the olla, which helps them to get through periods of drought or periods where it's sort of multiple days in between rain. Last year, I had tomatoes. Anybody who is following me on Instagram knows I had tomatoes last year all the way through November. I was still getting fresh tomatoes every single day. But one of the things that I noticed, especially with the larger tomatoes, is the beefsteak tomatoes, those larger, anything larger than a Roma tomato, is that if the tomato doesn't have consistent watering, consistent access to water through like a drip irrigation system or just watering your tomatoes every single day, you can get, your tomatoes can split on you. And so last year I got a lot of really great tomatoes, a lot of wonderful tasting tomatoes, but sometimes the skin would split, and that makes it so that the tomatoes don't last as long, on the counter or in the refrigerator. So to help with that, keeping your tomatoes evenly watered, allowing them to have access to water through a drip irrigation is one really great way. What I right now don't have drip irrigation to do. And so what I'm going to be doing is installing ollas in between my tomato plants, which will give the tomatoes a constant source of water that they can tap into and pull from as they need it. So I'll show you really quickly how this works. It's also great for other types of vegetables that do really well in the heat, but don't really like to dry out. It's really great for melons. It's great for pepper plants. I have pepper plants, and last year I had peppers similar to with the tomatoes. They just didn't get really thick and fleshy. The flesh on the inside was very thin, and that's because they didn't have consistent watering. So I'll show you some of the ollas that I've made and how I did it. Basically, you're going to take a regular terracotta pot that you would just plant flowers in. I got these at Walmart or Home Depot. They weren't very expensive. It was Walmart. I had to go out to the suburbs. The Walmart in my area didn't have the terracotta pots. I was a little disappointed. And what we're going to do, you see that hole at the bottom? This is just the sticker from the store. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of clear silicone. Okay, and this is approved for fish tanks, so it's non-toxic silicone. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and just run a little bead just around the inside of that hole. And this is going to seal the bottom because you don't want the water to go out immediately once you put it in your oil. You want this to be sealed and allow the water to go out through the walls of your terracotta pot. What I've also done is cut some little pieces, squares of plastic. This was just a flexible cutting board that I had, And I have like 4 of these. And so I could, I could use one, or I could, do away with one of them for the greater good. And then we're just going to take this and put it right on top of that bead. And I hope you guys can see that. You can see on the outer corner where there is no silicone, and then you can see in here where it's a little bit darker. That means that you have that seal. You want to see that dark ring all the way around. Okay, and so I'm going to do a couple more so you guys can see it step by step. This is step 1 to getting this done. And you can use larger pots if you can find them. These pots, when I got them at Walmart, were like $1.25 each, and then you had to buy the saucers separately. So that's our bead of silicone in there, and then you're gonna stick that in there like that. And I just usually press right in the middle. Okay, and then I work my way out to make sure that I have a really good seal. And this is just going to keep the water inside of your olla. Okay, and then this is the last one. You really want to make sure that you get an aquarium safe, non-toxic silicone sealant. You definitely don't want to put anything in your olla because this is going to be watering your garden and you're going to be eating the food that comes out of your garden. You don't want to put anything in here that's going to leach out any harmful chemicals. So there's our bead. Stick that on and then just press it right in the middle and it'll ooze out the sides. But that's what you want, because you want this to have a really, really good seal in there. And the packaging says that this dries in about 10 minutes. I left mine to dry for an hour. It's not going to hurt for it to go longer. I'm going to show you some of the ones that I already have done. So this is one that's already cured, and the silicone is already done. And I'll show you. So we're not getting anything coming out of the bottom, no water coming through. I'll take that off, the sticker. No water's coming out of the bottom there. And you can see how the water in this, because it's a porous pot, the water is going to eventually go all the way through this and begin to seep out into the surrounding garden soil. And that's going to allow your plants to soak up that water, and it's going to help them to get through periods of drought. Now, you're also going to have to purchase, these are the basins. Normally, these would go on the bottom if you were planting, in the top. Since we're going to be using this as an olla, and this part is going to be in the ground, it's going to be covered right up to the top there with soil. So I'm going to dig a hole, put it down in there, fill it with water, and then you're going to put your basin on the top. This is going to keep water from evaporating out, and it's also going to keep mosquitoes from being able to get into this water where you're not breeding mosquitoes in your yard. So, and you can see here where the water has already started to seep through my olla, and this is then going to be able to seep out into the surrounding soil to water the plants. So that didn't take long at all. So that's really, really cool. Now, here comes the fun part. And if you guys have kids, I definitely want you guys to try this. This is one great way to help to get your kids interested in gardening, interested in being in the garden with you, and also gives them a moment to sort of express themselves artistically. So what I did, I thought, these the tops for my Oyas are just kind of plain terracotta, and you can leave them like this if you want, if it's not something that you care about. What I did though is I went out and bought some tempera paint, which is a non-toxic type of paint. It's washable, so these are going to be temporary designs that I put on, and I did some really cool designs on the tops of my Oyas. So I took my tempera paint, and you can just do little cool things like this. You know, gives your kids something to do for an hour or so where they're not just watching TV or, just getting into things and stuff like that. You can do something really abstract. The tempera paints tend to have a more like a watercolor effect on the terracotta. But you can really get a little artistic and let your flair come out. I did this really cool sunflower, and you can do all kind of things. I'll show you a couple other ones. Because to celebrate my very first eggplant that I've harvested, I did a little eggplant on one. I thought that was really cool. And then you can also do just some, random sort of avant-garde, random designs. I also did, it helps your kid, it helps you be a little bit artistic, make it your own. You can do, this is carrots. I hope that's showing on camera. I did one with carrots, and then I did one with a tomato. So the tempera. This is the tempera paint set that I bought. Got this at Walmart, and just a cheap set of paint brushes. These are like super, super cheap. I think they were like $4 for all these paint brushes. And then this was cheap as well, not very expensive. And then that way you can take your Oyas and make them a little bit more decorative and personalized. So that's really cool, right? To have this part sitting in the ground, but then you have this cool little decorative sunflower that you can see when you come out to water your garden. And again, you could take something like this and put your kids' names in them. If you're doing a garden for your children, which is another great way to get your kids interested in gardening, you can take your Oyas and write their names on them. And then, of course, because these are non-toxic washable paints, when it rains, these are going to fade. And then now you have another art project in a couple of weeks. This sunflower fades, from watering or rain. You go back in, and next time you do a rose, or next time you do something else. So I hope that you guys will try to make these Oyas. They are a great benefit, and just look at that. Just in these few minutes since I put the water in there, this is already doing what it's supposed to do. This is damp to the touch, and your roots of your plants are going to go right to this, and it's going to help to keep your plants healthy through seasons of drought weather. It's going to help them to get through, especially plants that, really, really need to have that additional moisture. Your tomatoes, peppers, melons, zucchini even. You don't want those things to dry out, because it means that the fruits are going to be affected by that lack of water. So try these Oyas. Also go ahead and get yourself some paints and do some really decorative stuff. Send me a picture of what your Oyas look like when you design them, or if you have some pictures of you and your kids working on them. I would love to be able to share that on the channel. I look forward to doing another video for you guys next Sunday. I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. Remember to follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, and I'm also on Snapchat, ELLEBRKR. Of course, the channel is Miss Elle Presents, and I certainly look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great week, you guys. Kisses.